So what we're going to be doing today is really imagining a world where your brain can directly communicate with a computer, where nanoscale materials will actually be able to enhance and repair your body. And really the conversation today is talking about where science fiction meets what's clinically possible. So my name is Sharif. I'm the founder of Experimental Civics. I'm an innovator at NYU Langone Health, also professor at Sophia University, and the author of The Future is Taboo. And I'm really fascinated with ideas that live on the fringe. And so I'm incredibly excited to moderate this panel because both of these folks next to me are world-renowned innovators. They have a tremendous amount of expertise. I marvel at their achievements. And so I'd love to, without further ado, ask the panelists to introduce themselves.
Right, I'm Konstantin Novoselov. I'm a professor of physics and material science at the National University of Singapore and at the University of Manchester. So my work is predominantly on nanotechnology, new materials, advanced materials, their applications for advanced technologies. So we, over the recent few years, we tried to work on smart materials and figure out the border between life and death and try to make our materials to behave in a smart manner close to the biological systems.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tim Sievers. I'm an entrepreneur and investor, and I spent the first half of my professional life building a fintech unicorn out of Germany. I led that company for more than 10 years as a CEO. And then when I exited in 21, so about 5 years ago, I started my investment company, Berk Ventures, and I have a particular interest in the fields of health and longevity and technologies to address climate change.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just dive into the questions, I know, just to maximize our time. So my first one for you both is that you're really pushing the boundaries and challenging the notions of what's possible in healthcare. So can you just give us a snapshot of what the technology that you're working on today is, what the benefits are, but also just where is it today in terms of maturity? And perhaps, Tim, I can start with you.
Sure, yeah, I think maybe for the purpose of this panel, I'll focus on the brain-computer interface company, Blackrock Neurotech. I'm the executive co-chairman of the board of that company. So BCI stands for Brain-Computer Interface. We develop electrodes that are implanted into the human brain. And then, as you may know, the brain is an electrical organ. So when you think or move, the neurons generate an electrical signal. And the electrode can pick up that signal, and the data can then be processed and decoded for movement or speech. What's particularly exciting, I find, is also you can stimulate the brain back, so it can maybe restore a sense of touch. So it's quite fascinating. And this technology is currently used, for instance, in patients with a severe medical condition, maybe quadriplegic patients who can then use that device to regain some function they might have lost, for instance, to move a prosthetic limb or to regain the ability to communicate. Oh, and you asked how far this is, so I think that's maybe worth pointing out because it sounds like science fiction. When I got first involved, I was surprised to learn that this is actually a clinical reality today. So we have, BlackRock is a pioneer in this space. We implanted the first patient about 15 years ago. We have implanted a total of, I think, a little over 50 patients to date. The longest one has had his device in his brain for 10 years and is still functioning. So this is real today. However, it's all patients are currently implanted in a research setting, so it's not widely available to patients yet. We're working on that.
Thank you.
Right. So, and in our institute, we're trying to approach similar problems, but from the other side, from the physics and from the material side. And the big question which we would like to answer, I'm not sure if we have got time within my lifetime, but generally I think it's a very important question is why. So what is the border between living systems and the non-living systems? Why, when you synthesize something, sometimes you get dead material, sometimes you get biologically active material. So, so there are some physics rationale how to distinguish between the two, but that's largely what we would like to make. And then if you manage to create those artificial systems which can behave in a similar manner as the biological systems, then you should be able to create more advanced, like biotic abiotic interfaces, as Tim just mentioned. Like maybe give you a few examples, as Tim already said. All the currents in your body are ionic currents, so you can think about your heart, for example, as a huge oscillator, so where currents continuously circulating in a periodic manner. So there are ions exchanging between different parts of your heart and between crossing different membranes. So we are producing, again, ionic systems which work on the same principles and which show similar oscillations. So potentially you would be able to implant it there because they use exactly the same signal. It would be much more compatible with the biological systems than what we use now, because all our electronics is based on electrons, not on ions. So there are issues with those interfaces. So that's but then you can do a lot of that on the implant, on the brain implant as well. So you can create active brain implants where you can. So some of the decision making can be made on the inside of your brain already, rather than reading the signal, do the processing somewhere in the computer. So our implants start to be smart. They can differentiate between different signals, whether it is lithium or whether it is sodium, because so those are the different channels of how the information is transmitted. So I think that's one of the most exciting part of research for us. But then on the as a side track, if you learn how to control those signals, you can also create smart drug delivery platforms, artificial kidneys, for example, which is all about filtering ions and filtering small molecules and so on and so on and so on.
So I just want to build on that. Really, the next question is about, in your respective fields, do you really feel that you can be disruptive? And maybe Konstantin, we can start with you on that. You just mentioned, artificial kidneys, smart kidneys, even the nanoscale materials.
I'm still a simple physicist, right? But if I need to answer this question, I would say anything in healthcare will be disruptive. When you touch healthcare, when you touch the science of medicine, I have a feeling that we know so little. Like one of the direction of our work is on new types of computing, like neuromorphic computing. So AI. So we call them neuromorphic layers, neuromorphic computers. But even though we call them neuromorphic, we pretend that we make them in a similar manner how our brain operates. But gosh, what do we know about the operation of our brain? I don't think we know much at all. So for me, it's just I see so many possible breakthroughs there that simply because our platform, our ground level at the moment is extremely poor.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends, of course, what you understand disruptive to mean, but I think VCI can be very disruptive in the sense that it can dramatically improve the treatment options available to patients. So I think that's the short-term disruption potential I see for BCI. But actually, I think BCI can even go beyond that. So in the medium to long term, there is potential to go beyond the clinical translation too. And the way I think about this is that innovation will probably play out in sort of three waves. The first one is the clinical translation or the restoration, so where we try to help patients restore a sense of touch or regain independence in terms of movement. And that's what Blackrock is completely focused on. But if you look beyond that in the medium to long term, so once you have restored, say, vision or hearing to someone, why stop there? So there's a whole realm of enhancement potential. So maybe you can, if you can make parts of the spectrum of wavelengths visible to humans that aren't picked up by the natural senses, so ultraviolet light, for instance, or infrared light. Same with hearing frequency. So there's this sort of second wave I see that you can sort of summarize maybe with the term enhancement. And then in the very long term, you could even think of immersion, so immersive experiences. So if you come back to what I said earlier, that even today with a relatively early stage technology, we can restore a sense of touch. It's conceivable that in 20, 30 years, we might be able to generate much more complex experiences in the brain. And I don't know, maybe some of you know Ready Player One or The Matrix. So that idea has been around in science fiction for a while. And that's obviously quite exciting. So the sort of something like the Apple Vision Pro might look very lame in hindsight. But I want to also emphasize that this is so, especially the immersion and to some extent also the enhancement is pure speculation. So it's not even clear that this is possible. The understanding of the brain and how the brain functions today isn't there. But it's interesting to think about that as well.
Tim, let me just break here and just introduce you to that gentleman who is actually doing this level 2 stage, as you mentioned, Valentin Volkov, who is doing those smart lenses, which can read into the extra part of the spectra, so you can see in the outside of the usual spectra, do some of the chemical testing inside of your eye and so on. So it is becoming a reality now. So and it's actually the local company in Dubai. Valentin, just wave to the audience here.
So actually in that same vein, I wanted to ask you both, just what's the most burning, promising thing that is, and I know you just mentioned a bunch of thinking about even this future of this immersive experience, almost like the Matrix. I know I'm extremely excited by that, but I'm just curious from both of you to hear, just what's the most promising thing?
Well, let me start a little bit outside. So, and part of all the other things I do, I paint as well. So, and so I received formal education in Chinese art from Xiamen University, and you would think that the way the Chinese painting would be very different from the Western painting, but in fact it's not. It's not that. You can quite easily put it into the general development of how we think about art, and it's basically just in a nutshell. All you need to do with the art is to provide powerful enough signals through the visual channels. I mean, these days art is everything, so maybe through the hearing channel, through the tactile and so on, to stimulate certain feelings in your brain. And of course, from the Renaissance, so the realism was dominant, but then we moved to the Impressionism and to the abstract painting. And what I like about Chinese painting, that the ideal painting is that when you draw one line, but it says as much as the perfect landscape, or from the Renaissance period. So, and that's it just tells you that what we're trying to do through art is to communicate directly into your brain through the visual channel. But then, why do you need to do it through your eye? You can implant wires inside of your brain and give the same stimulation, and that would be your way of art. I think understanding the human consciousness and understanding the how can we gain control, if ever. I'm not sure if it is definitely if it is possible at all, but if ever, that would be a fantastic achievement. And I think after that we can close our universities and go home. So.
Great answer, Tim.
Yeah, I think I'm most excited about the clinical translation of our technology, that first wave of innovation which is playing out now. And for instance, we have one of the initiatives at Blackrock is focused on restoring hearing to people with a damaged cochlea by interfacing directly with the hearing nerve. And I think that's, I mean, this is really far advanced. Like I said, it's still some way to have that available for patients. But I think if we manage to use this technology to develop and make available treatment options to patients like that, that can be pretty exciting.
Yeah. So the next question that I have for you both is really just thinking about, and I know I think about this daily as well, being at the hospital and in ambulatory care. Healthcare is very personal. It's sensitive. So I know even listening to you both talking about implanting chips into the brain, I don't know if people here feel sensitive about that or what your reaction might be. So I'm just very curious of what are the limits that we should respect when kind of thinking about this technology being applied in healthcare, but also what are the limits that we're ready to transcend?
Well, I think it's a very serious question, and we need to be. I don't think we're there yet. We probably have another decade or so, maybe a bit more before the real problems are going to happen. But it's something we need to think about. If someone reads the image of your brain on the MRI, and basically on the functional MRI, and then and can potentially decode into your thoughts or collect enough information from the electrodes and gain some of your conscious or maybe even subconscious feeling and thought as well. So what is the who owns that? So people who actually read it, because they can read it even before you understand those thoughts. So that's very disturbing and serious question. But then let me just give you two potential angles on this. So I just told you the story before this session. I'll tell to the audience. So when I was a young student, because you try to experiment with new systems. So I thought at the time about some brilliant experiment we need to do. I rushed into the office of my supervisor. I said, Andrei, so we need to do this and this and that, but we need to do it quick because someone can do it before us. And then he would just turn to me and says, Kostya, you need to be very proud of yourself if someone ever wants to steal one of your ideas, which is, and I think the attitude probably that we will have to adapt. And then the second point is, I've been working in the area of science for many years, and it's surprisingly you see quite often that discoveries are made simultaneously in different parts of the world in two or even three completely different disconnected labs. And it tells you that those discoveries are usually triggered in your brain by something, and maybe this something is whatever information fields or some news happening on the TV. But that raises a question whether those discoveries and those brilliant thoughts, how much are they personal or how much are they actually shared, and if those thoughts are created in your brain, are you entitled to them, or for example, scientific discoveries are made to be shared and fundamentally had to be shared because they are at the end of the day they are a product of the gradual development of many different people across the globe. So this border between conscious, personal, and subconscious, and personal and or communal ideas. I don't think we have this concept yet, but eventually it would need to be developed, and especially in conjunction with this mind reading technologies.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in our field also taboos are, of course, a topic, and maybe I can sort of share with you a patient story of a guy called Nathan Copeland, and he had a car accident in 2004, which left him quadriplegic at the age of 18, and then he got implanted with one of our devices in 2014 to move a robotic limb and restore sensory feedback. And he actually, that went really well, successfully, and he actually met President Obama in 2016 and gave him a fist bump with his robotic limb. Quite a cool story. So Nathan sometimes, when he speaks, he sometimes refers to himself as a cyborg. And I find that quite interesting. And so if you think about what happens when we sort of link up as humans with computers and that are powered by AI and advanced robotics, so is that, are we creating a new species almost going forward, like inserting that hardware into our biology, and then if that's the case, so how do we think about fairness and access? Also, I think that's an interesting question, because so if you think about maybe able-bodied people then getting these implants and then out-competing non-implanted people as well, there are all sorts of interesting questions that I agree with Konstantin. It'll be another 10 years before we really have to seriously, I think, manage these challenges, but it's good to anticipate them and start to think about them early, I think.
So my next question is a juicy one, but it's on that same vein. So in thinking about society's reactions, dealing with the taboos you both have kind of alluded to, how should we start to address these? When people think, and you're sharing about what your technology is working on, what reactions have you seen, and how do you address them?
Well, I don't think I've got an answer to it. I'm sure that just legislative approach to this won't be enough. So it will create more problems than answers. So I think we need to change the human mentality. I mean, we are doing this already through the implants. So whether we can speed it up or not. So
Yeah.
whether we can reprogram people to accept it more easily. I think how we will see it. So if I need to predict how it will be developing, it's of course initially it's those prosthetic functions like prosthetic vision or hearing or speech connected to your brain, and I think during that process, hopefully, we will understand more about ourselves and about brain functioning. So my only hope is that with more data as we're going to collect, we will understand a little bit more what consciousness is, and it would help us to create more balanced approach. But as of today, I don't think we are ready, and I don't think we have any answer. I mean, this is the question which people have been trying to answering for millennia. What is consciousness, and what is God, and where we are sitting in this situation. So we have to rush it up and do it within a decade, which is not very fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my answer to that would be that our North Star at Blackrock is to put patient needs at the center of what we do. So the whole company and the whole culture is really patient-centric, which is one of the things I really like about this company too. And the patients, or later maybe the users, if this gets to the stage where able-bodied people will have these implants, they need to be sovereign, they need to be in control of what happens to their data, and what they can do with this device. So that's really important as a fundamental principle, I think. The other thing is, I think it's without question that this is a challenge for regulators to get their head around this and to be really ahead of the curve in order to anticipate what's possible and assess, how as a society to deal with it. And that's the other side of the equation. And we do see regulators getting involved and entering a dialogue, and the industry players to start to collaborate and sort of jointly developing a framework for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know that we need a disclaimer. Let me make one as well. The University of Singapore puts the patient needs at the top of the priority and so on.
We all noted the point about mind control. So my next question, and actually I'm going to ask the audience and even for the folks online, is to really imagine that we're actually having this conversation now in 2050. None of us have aged today. We all look incredible. We're still young. What do you suspect? Any speculations that you have in terms of where your fields may be now?
And one thing I would know that as we every year it gets harder and harder for me to give scientific talks, because I suppose to learn more, but at the same time, once you learn more, the frontiers expand as well. So you realize how much you don't know, both the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. So in that sense, I don't think that in 25 years there will be a dramatic progress in either physics or in material science or in brain science, which would leave scientists out of the job. No, I think we will still be there will be still a lot of work there. But the type of machinery and technologies which we've got these days, in terms of implants, in terms of functional MRI, will definitely make a huge breakthroughs. And of course, artificial intelligence. We were discussing the other day, because one of the applications for artificial intelligence, if we had the money of Google, I would say learn the language of animals, for example, so that you would be able to communicate with the other species. I'm sure it's going to happen. So whether we will learn to communicate within our species, it's a different question. But with the other species, it should be easier.
Yeah. Jim?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, so it's always difficult to predict the future, and many scenarios are possible. But one scenario that I think is at least conceivable is that in 30 years from now, almost everyone will have a BCI, like everyone has an iPhone now. If the implantation becomes as minimally invasive or simple as maybe getting your eyes lasered, for instance. And if it's sort of really safe and proven, you could use that device to interact with not just computers, but like the Internet of Things. And I think it's conceivable that leveraging the power of your brain then with the enhanced processing power of what's out there and the huge amounts of data, we could have quite amazing results for what a human can do, for maybe progress of research as well, and accelerating maybe sort of innovation. So yeah, that's I think a sort of pretty exciting thought, and what gives me also a hope a little bit that things could become pretty fascinating in the future is that today, all of like what I told you about these applications. At the moment, this is all based on a technology that reads about 1,000 neurons. So we have like an electrode count in these arrays of up to maybe like 1,000. then you can maybe implant more than one, but you're in the sort of single digit, low single digit thousand electrodes at the very most. And the brain has 80 billion neurons. So, I mean, with that tiny amount of information, we can already do, I think, pretty fascinating stuff. So, and at Blackrock, we work on improving those devices. Like there are real quantum leaps in performance conceivable, like getting to much higher electron counts, much like more being invisible to the immune system, so you can get an implant for life potentially. So when all these things happen and come together, I think it could be pretty amazing.
I think people don't realize how fast these technologies are approaching the market and approaching the real life applications. Even like 20 years ago, the number of people in the UK above the age of 70 who would have pacemakers implants would be close to 70%. So we're getting we are becoming cyborgs faster and faster now. So it's a good chance that pretty much every single one of us is going to become a cyborg in one sense or another, at least with the pacemakers for sure.
Okay. So I do want to just call out that we'll have a Q&A section a bit later, so just hold your questions for now, and I'll open it up in a second. But just a few more questions. So we've talked about what the technology is, we've talked a little bit about the promise, the taboos, a little bit about this possible future. Can you share a little bit more about the friction? What are the challenges in order to get to a reality where everyone does have a BCI and is a cyborg? Or, Konstantin, to your point about, okay, in 25 years, we're not going to have all the advances that we might need to get there. I'm just curious on your thoughts.
No, I don't think, I think society starts to be quite risk-hungry these days, and the breakthroughs of the recent years in materials or in quantum or in AI change people's perception towards what is possible with technology. So these days, it's really, I mean, sometimes surprising, but also nice to see how crazy ideas can find supporters and can find fundings for the development. Not all of them are surviving, of course, but I think society become, I mean, maybe at some level more trustful or less educated, so they trust some science fiction a lot, but that's not a bad thing. So we get more funding for the crazy ideas, and those crazy ideas would lead to too many breakthroughs. So I would say this friction it just goes down gradually. So we see the hunger for the breakthrough technologies.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I think so. I have two things on my mind, both to do with regulation. So I think the first thing to realize is that clear regulation where customers can feel that they can rely on being kept safe and be protected is conducive for innovation. And also for companies innovating, it's important to have clarity about what the framework is and what the rules of the game are. So I think it's I think it's a challenge for regulators around the world now to get acquainted with this technology and form an opinion on what's wanted. Ideally also have some sort of coordination across jurisdictions, and then collaborate with the industry to have a clear framework for the future that everyone can work towards. And that's, I think, a joint challenge that can help the speed of innovation going forward. And the second one is in the clinical translation today, from the point where we sort of can tell that in principle a certain application works, and then what we do is typically we spin this out, have a separate team on it, have separate funding, and then they work towards getting that therapy or device approved and out there for patients. And at the moment, from the moment you kind of know in principle it works to this being available to patients, it takes about 7, like as a rule of thumb, takes about 7 years and more than $100 million of funding. And that's a long time. I mean, part of this is also product development and refinement and miniaturization, all these things you need to do between like what it works in the lab to it works out there for patients. But a part of that is also, of course, clinical trials. And I think if one can maybe accelerate that, shorten that period of time and make it less expensive for companies, I think more initiatives would get funding and also patient outcomes could be improved faster.
Tim, but don't you think that regulations always go behind? So that you cannot regulate something which doesn't exist. So usually, something first happens and then people think about regulations. Or did you ever come across? Have you ever come across any of the regulations who were smart enough to regulate something in the future?
Well, we haven't given up hope yet, so I think we can have a dialogue with the regulator about what you see coming and sort of where you think things are going and understand priorities. I think that's helpful because if you sort of work towards something and then come out with it and then the regulator makes up its mind, that takes a couple of years, plus all your investment is at risk. So if you can sort of find a more collaborative model, I think that's super helpful for everyone involved.
Yes, I agree. Just working in this gray area before the regulators start to know about this is much more comfortable. So at least in the lab.
Right.
So this will be my last question, then we'll open it up to Q&A. So essentially, what is one takeaway that you would love for the audience here and the folks online to remember about our Beyond Medicine conversation?
Well, I would say that the science of ourselves is the most fundamental and the one question which is worthwhile to discover. So what is life? What is not life? What is consciousness? What is not consciousness? We've got more and more tools for this, and I don't think it will happen on my lifetime, but it's really fantastic that we are at least given a chance to be part of it.
Yeah, I would say BCI is a clinical reality today. I think that's something that one can take away from this, and also the potential for this to be really transformative for us in the future is definitely huge.
Thank you. So a round of applause for our wonderful panelists. So I think we have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. We're going to have mics going around the room so everyone can hear. Just some housekeeping. Please speak directly into the mic, introduce yourself, and just share what your question is. And if you can be specific, we can maybe tackle a few more questions as well. So maybe we'll start in these 2 folks at the front. Gentleman in the yellow shirt.
Hi, I'm Jose Cordeiro from Spain and one of the founding faculty of Singularity University. So my question has to do, well, first, congratulations on this beautiful session. My question is to you, Tim. What are the similarities and differences between Blackrock Neurotech and Neuralink? And also I have read that now in China they have like 10 companies like Neuralink. And when the Chinese go for something, they go quick and fast and cheap. So, Neuralink and China.
Right. Yeah, so Neuralink is also active in our field. It's a competitor of ours. I'm very impressed with what they've been able to accomplish. Like I mentioned, Blackrock has started, I think the company was started in 2008 and we had the first patient implanted shortly after. So we've been at this for a long time, but at a smaller scale initially, and we're scaling things up now as well. But Neuralink has entered the game relatively late and has gone at it, with quite some dedication and significant funding, and that's been great for the field. So because it has brought a lot of attention to this what sort of used to be a niche, and credibility also, I think. So and I think this is sort of still a field where you're not taking away from each other. So we're kind of jointly developing this industry and sort of, yeah, so I think that's, I mean, if you ask about the differences in the device, it's, so there are, of course, technical differences, but effectively it's the same device category, so an electrode arrays that are implanted into the brain.
Thank you.
And China, yeah, okay, so No, I think you're right. This is an area that China has started to take seriously and actively engage in. And
And they have more samples as well. Like they got unlimited supply of the research material.
I don't know. I mean, so we have limited transparency about what exactly those companies are doing and how far they are. Yeah, so there isn't much exchange at the moment with our competitors out from China.
Perfect. And for the interest of time, we're going to move ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Just one second. You
Yeah.
really make me sad because Spain is there as well. So there is fantastic company in Brain in Barcelona who produced one of the most sensitive brain implants in the world.
And they use graphene, which
Yeah,
Konstantin invented.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Novoselov. I'm a physician and a social entrepreneur for the record. I think we all agree that healthcare is global, or at least that's how it should be. But I would appreciate if you could talk a little bit more about the geopolitical factors that affect the access, international collaboration, and also trust when it comes to these revolutionary technologies, and also especially when it comes to data sharing between countries.
I mean, all I can say that luckily we see the use of the data federation technology is increasing. It's still difficult, but it's probably one of the way forward. I mean, of course, we would like to share data freely. It's not going to happen anytime soon, and I think, I mean, I like those fancy words of geopolitics and so on. In reality, the biggest problems are hospital to hospital. Really, it's just stop about. Just don't even talk about geopolitics. But hopefully, the technologies like data federation should help us to extract useful information without the data exchange.
Tim, anything to add?
No, I mean, to be honest, I'm not even sure to what extent that it's correct that this is health in that sense is sort of international and global. I mean, you are right. I agree with you that the countries share the same challenge. I think in the US, they're spending about 17% of GDP at the moment on healthcare, which arguably is not serving everyone perfectly. In Germany, I think it's about 12 or 13% of GDP, so that's a lot of money. And that raises many questions, and that's a sort of a shared challenge. But I'm not sure to what extent data exchange is happening across jurisdictions. Also, regulators are working within their jurisdiction and not across jurisdictions. So a lot of this isn't very global in many practical ways that we experience as a company.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm a product designer and I'm really interested about the BCI. So my question is, do you think that BCI in the future or like with the next 5 years could be adapted for pediatric patients who have speech disorder problems and like things and like that? And do you think that could improve their speech within it?
Within the next 5 years?
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a challenge just on the timescales that I just mentioned with the clinical translation of these initiatives. I think, in BCI there are many dimensions of innovation at the moment, so we are working very hard on increasing electrode count to make those devices more performant, to increase the invisibility to the immune system so that they can stay in much longer. And there are all these sort of fundamental lines and challenges and sort of lines of innovation. And then in terms of form factor, there are other challenges too. So it's a lot of data that's being generated. How do you get that out of the skull? A cable isn't great. I mean, it does the job, but it's not great for usability. So you want wireless for large amounts of data. It has to be very low energy. It can't generate any heat. Ideally, you want to be able to have an MRI with it. So there are a lot of challenges, all of these solvable, and we, in our opinion at least, and we have sort of made a lot of progress on all of those fronts. But I don't see, it to be honest, within 5 years, with the sort of those applications, that's going to be tight. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the session. I'm Yusuf Saibati. I'm a computational neuroscience researcher, and I was curious on your perspective on what do you think would be the an advancement within BCIs that would give a company the edge within this race between those different companies, whether it was from a use case a perspective or compute perspective. Neuromorphic computing was mentioned in the conversation. So what do you think would be the area within BCIs that an advancement in it would give a huge edge to the company who gets that advantage?
So just so I make sure I understand the question correctly, you're asking for what would be an innovation that would give someone the edge over other competitors?
Yeah, exactly. Like what exact area within the space would give like a very clear edge within the space?
You want to go, Konstantin? Or?
I mean, I can start with it. I'm sure in terms of the competition, you would probably answer it better. So I think there are several obvious things like precision of the implants, the locality and understanding the functioning of particular neurons which you're targeting is one. But I think I don't think anytime soon we'll have much breakthroughs there. So I would say the next breakthrough is the signal analysis. So just understanding the correlations between multiple signals from the multiple neurons. So I would say that we can expect in the next few years. So that's it will be an easy low hanging fruits how to correlate multiple signals, because different neurons they produce different signals and they're responsible for different functionalities, but in reality it's the combination, like for the sense of positioning and direction only can be done by measuring multiple neurons rather than one signal one. So this data analysis is easy, low-hanging fruit for the next few years.
Yeah, I think another sort of maybe a few other aspects worth considering are patient years. So the amount of data you can actually generate patient data from. So the number of patients and how long they have the device implanted, that generates very valuable experience and an input into the further development and design process. That's one dimension that's important. And another one is, I think it's come up a few times, the longevity of the device, that you can actually have this in a patient for a long time and don't have to explant it after a year or whatever because the immune system reacts badly to it or other challenges happen. And then maybe also the calibration and the usability of the device for the patient. Those are important. Those are important dimensions, I think.
Maybe we have time for just the one last question.
Thank you. Thank you for a superb presentation. My name is Mark Hannaford. I head up an organization called World Extreme Medicine, and we're concerned with delivering medicine in austere and remote locations. It was my project, the External Fixator campaign, that was featured in the opening presentation, where we've managed to halve the cost of external fixators and make them reusable. Anyway, the question was though, is there any, my focus at the moment is with people injured by ballistic injuries in Eastern Europe. Is there any work in terms of stimulating tissue recovery when you have an external fixator, in terms of getting electronic signals into the tissue to regenerate that tissue much more quickly to aid recovery?
Yeah, there's. I think I'm aware of a few projects in that area. There's some exciting work that's happening with where our electrodes are used to stimulate tissue to reduce scarring, for instance, in certain organs. So maybe I'm happy to catch up after this and chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we work a lot on the 3D conductive scaffolding, for example, for heart tissues, which would allow you to grow artificial artificial valves, for example, not in a petri dish, but with a given geometry, and using the conductive scaffolding allows you for the stimulation. I mean, at this moment of time, I don't think anyone actually understands the role of this stimulation. So everything is on the experimental level, and then whether you apply AC or DC or whichever polarity, but at least lots of people are working towards that. I won't be able to tell you if there is any definitive answers and what kind of batteries do you need to apply during the growth, though.
So I just want to thank all of the folks here, the audience here in the room, for joining our session today, and another round of applause for amazing panelists.